Hi guys, I'm Adam Wilborn from WhatCulture.
And I'm Andy Murray from WhatCulture, and coming up today I'm going to tell you about the surprising new feud that WWE might have planned for Drew McIntyre, and on top of that, some backstage notes on WWE's original plans for Roman Reigns.
Plus, a former WWE star has signed for AEW, and a big update on plans for The Fiend and Alexa Bliss for next year's WrestleMania. This is the news.
Let's kick things off by talking about Drew McIntyre, who of course won the WWE Championship from Randy Orton on this week's episode of Raw. His second reign of the year, second of his career, all of that good stuff. Who's he going to feud with in the future? Well, he's obviously got Roman Reigns this weekend. Be talking a little bit about Roman Reigns in a couple of minutes. But after that, after Survivor Series, what's he going to do? Sheamus might be the answer. He might be feuding with Sheamus, a storyline building between the two of them. This comes from Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio, talking about internally in WWE, there was talk actually of Sheamus potentially costing McIntyre the title on this week's episode of Raw, leading to that feud. Instead, it looks like WWE will be pivoting towards Sheamus versus McIntyre for the title. The reason WWE is doing the backstage segments with Sheamus and Drew, and they're like, we're pals, you're Irish, I'm Scottish, cool, is because they want to build them up as buddies before eventually pulling some kind of split, some kind of turn. You'd have to think that that'll be Sheamus turning heel, not Drew turning heel on Sheamus, which would be really strange, Sheamus is already a heel. But you know what I mean, leading to the feud, the big collision. There's no word on when exactly this will go down, but it's something that McIntyre has spoken about in the past. He told Sports Illustrated recently that because him and Sheamus have a lot of real life history and wrestling history, that he would love to feud with him. It's something they could bring some really cool stuff to in the future. And Drew has said things like this in the past in interviews, and they've come to pass. The whole Orton feud is a good example of that. He pinpointed that months ahead of time with the same outlet, with Sports Illustrated. So, it could be happening. It's an interesting choice. Sheamus, we speak about Sheamus quite often, and I truly believe he's one of the most underrated guys in WWE, over the past, 10 years. The thing with Sheamus is that maybe he doesn't have this mad catalogue of incredible, mind-blowing matches. He's had some great matches, but not ones that define eras and stuff. But he's never anything less than good when he's wrestling. He's a very solid TV performer, and the sheer volume of people who think this guy sucks wrongly means that by default, he's underrated. So this could be a good, bruising, hard-hitting match. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, I've got to say, I'm a big fan of this. It's Wednesday. We need some positivity. It's hump day. The only good thing about today is my wonderful moustache. Hamlet and I were actually talking about this on the Raw Review podcast yesterday, and he got me really excited about it. Like you say, there's this history there, and WWE love their history, and I can easily see, Hamlet even pitched actually, I think Sheamus coming down and getting involved in that champion versus champion match at Survivor Series, maybe evening the odds if Jey Uso decides to get involved for his tribal chief sort of thing. I love that idea, and I think, putting them together and focusing on this friendship that, and then it's just, Taylor's oldest time turns on him, and then you have a fight for the championship. And look at what Sheamus was able to do with Big E on just a random episode of SmackDown. That was a wild brawl. Shove Drew McIntyre and Sheamus in some mad TLC match to end the year, and you know what? Maybe everything is going to be all right. Of course, this could all just be a massive smokescreen they're putting out there because The Miz is going to cash in on Sunday night, 10 years and all that. But you know what? I'm really high on this storyline. And speaking of high, Matt Sydal has signed with AEW. You'll of course remember he debuted for them at the All Out Casino Battle Royal. He's one of those people I think we all assumed if he hadn't signed already was going to be signed. And they announced this yesterday, but you sense that this has probably been in the plans from the moment he popped up in AEW. You don't really bring someone out, as Andy and I were chatting about before we started recording, as the Joker at the Casino Battle Royal, as admittedly as that badly went, and not have them signed to AEW. And I love Sydal. I think he's a brilliant performer. I thought he was really underutilised as Evan Bourne back in the day in WWE. His current singles record, 5-3. He's only lost to people they're clearly pushing, like Brian Cage, Eddie Kingston and Sean Spears. No word on how long he's signed for, but a great addition, Andy.
Yeah, he's a good addition to the roster. He's a veteran, obviously, but he's still only 37 years old, which is mental because it feels like he's been around since like 1972 or something. That's an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. I have the feeling that Seidel was signed before he even debuted in that Casino Battle Royale. That's just me speculating. But you know, we've heard talk about how a bunch of people who are currently used on Dark every week, for example, have been quietly signed. They just haven't given them the graphic yet until they have something like substantial for them to do. Seidel is rubbing shoulders with the Eddie Kingstons, with the Brian Cages and so forth. I think that'll be his role going forward. I think he'll be like the mid-card dude who beats people up on Dark and then faces someone who's pushed and gives them the rub with a good little match to get them over. And that's a good role for him at this stage in his career. He's a good wrestler. He's adapted his style over time to cope with injuries and so forth. Good to see him back in a major league wrestling promotion, because the way he... Read up on the way he left New Japan Pro Wrestling if you've got 5 minutes, guys. It is something else.
He is definitely someone I could see. Sorry to interrupt there, Andy, but he's definitely someone I could see becoming TNT champion or whatever.
Yeah.
I think he's someone who really can surprise casual wrestling fans and make them go, oh my god, I need to watch this on a more regular basis. Then again, he also is someone I think would look mint going for his finisher, getting caught by Wardlow, and then getting hit with an F10. So, mixed emotions.
Yeah, I mean, and by all accounts, he's a good dude as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, always feel happy for good dudes doing good dude things.
Ex-WCPW boy as well, so good luck to
there
him.
you go, another one. Let's take credit for all his success, why not?
Yeah.
Let's speak about another good dude by all accounts. Roman Reigns. I almost called him Joe Reigns. That would have been strange real life crossing into the gimmick. Original plans for Roman Reigns as Universal Champion. You all like the Tribal Chief. You all like heel Roman Reigns. In this run he's on as Universal Champion. Well, the word from Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio. 2 Meltzer stories in one day. Man, the people who don't like Dave's name are going to go mental. But he was talking here about how the original plan for Roman was a short title reign. He was not originally planned to hold the Universal Championship for a long period of time. He was going to have a short run before dropping it to someone else. And the someone else in this case could well have been Daniel Bryan, which would be interesting because recently, of course, we saw Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, specifically Jey Uso, but absolutely murderize Daniel Bryan on SmackDown, writing him off TV for a little bit. It looks like they're going to build towards Roman versus Daniel Bryan, which personally has been one of my dream matches in WWE for about I don't know, like 2-3 years, whatever, since Bryan came back, basically. So looking forward to seeing that. I get the impression that Roman is at least going to hold that belt now all the way to WrestleMania, where someone will maybe take it from him. We talked about Big E, we talked about The Rock, maybe even Jey Uso, maybe Jimmy Uso, maybe Daddy Uso, Rikishi, who knows?
Yeah.
Somebody is going to do that. But it's interesting to think that this Tribal Chief run as Universal Champion may have already come to an end.
Yeah, it's very, very weird and very rare, in fact, that I would think, no, please don't put the world title on Daniel Bryan. But this is one of those instances. I think this Tribal Chief character has been a sensation. I think it would have completely cut the legs out from underneath it had you have him drop the title to Daniel Bryan. And like you say, I think that is a magnificent match. And again, this is all swirling up and about, and we don't know what's going to happen with vaccines and ongoing global bastards. But let's just say, for argument's sake, with everything crossed, we are going to get crowds back in attendance for the Royal Rumble. That is your perfect Royal Rumble Universal Championship match, in my opinion. And you can then have Big E win the Rumble potentially, or The Rock, or whatever you want to do. Like you say, I can't see Roman dropping this title before WrestleMania 37. And yeah, it's nice to see WWE thinking about stuff they've planned out and going, no, actually, for once, this is a better idea. But speaking of WrestleMania 37, an interesting development when it comes to The Fiend and Alexa Bliss and WWE's plans for them. Now, we reported recently, of course, that WWE considering not just Edge versus Randy Orton, but Edge versus Bray Wyatt, The Fiend at WrestleMania. And now, according to WrestlePost, the plans for the 2021 edition of the Show of Shows has Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss teaming up, rumours suggesting that they could face Edge and Beth Phoenix, which is a completely different direction for someone like Edge, but arguably may protect him if he's still recovering from that injury. We talked about just yesterday, in fact, that he's taking longer because, you know, old. he's not a spring chicken anymore, although he is a chicken I still love. What do you reckon to this booking, Andy?
I think I would rather see Randy Orton and Edge one-on-one at WrestleMania with or without a championship. But, if you're looking for opposition for Bray and Alexa, you're not going to get much better than Edge and Beth, right? At least on the star power level. The Bray Wyatt Alexa Bliss tandem is very popular at the moment. People love this thing. It's really... I hate to use the word over because we can't really tell what's over and what's not over without crowds and stuff, but it's popular on social media. It's popping off. It's given Bray something different to do. I suspect we'll see Bray in the world title mix before long, and that may eventually factor into WrestleMania plans as well. But not the mixed tag I would certainly go looking for, given the options available on the table for Edge elsewhere. But I think it'd be pretty good.
Let us know your thoughts on that in the comments, and we'll move on to your Twitter questions at WhatCulture WWE. First question today comes from Nick Johnson, who says, "Morning, gents." Morning, Nick. New question for you: which wrestlers do you think are having the most fun with their current gimmicks? I can't help but think Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss take the crown. They seem to be having an absolute blast.
Yeah, the two of them are visibly very into what they're doing at the moment, and credit to them. John Silver is the first guy that comes to mind, man. He's just a little ball of joy, isn't he? He's so infectious, he's so charismatic, he's so much fun. It looks like he's having the time of his life, having spent all that time grinding up from the indies and debuting in AEW as just like a one-off jobber alongside Alex Reynolds. Now, he's like this really popular mid-card novelty act, and you see the smile on his face every time he does his Meat Man gimmick. Love the guy, and he loves it too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's very recent, but I sense that Pac is probably very happy to be back being a bastard, basically. Commiserations in advance to the Blade. Oh, that's not going to be pretty tonight on Dynamite. And in terms of WWE, I think the Hurt Business are clearly enjoying what they're doing. Mustafa Ali and Retribution probably were until... well, they just got booked into oblivion. And I have to say, just to repeat ourselves again on this news piece, Roman Reigns, I mean, just a completely new lease of life for him and for his character. And for me personally, I think the Tribal Chief gimmick is something that I've been telling a lot of casual wrestling fans of mine who've sort of become a bit lax with it. You need to get watching again because I really enjoy what they're doing with Roman as world champion on SmackDown. Second question today, see if you can see why I picked this one, Andy. Comes from Big Joe 83, who says, given Peyton Bladdy Royce, her late inclusion in the Survivor Series match, could you see WWE having her as the sole survivor and finally giving her a push? Maybe cost Asuka her match on the night and win the title the next night on Raw. Please say yes, Andy.
I hate this idea. Look, no disrespect to Peyton Royce. Peyton Royce is a skilled performer, and I think she has a lot of potential to grow even further. And I think she can absolutely be a big deal and a champion in WWE at some point, a singles champion. She's already been tag team champion, of course. But I don't think it's good booking at all to take someone who is just coming off a run as pretty much a jobber, a great job, like a really entertaining, personality-packed one. But with such a lopsided in-ring record when she was an Iconic, you're going to suddenly throw her up to the world title level? That's Jinder. That's what that is. It's Jinder booking. And you're going to disagree, obviously. But no, I don't like this idea.
No, I have to say, I can't help but agree that that's not going to happen. She also shouldn't be in a bloody team with Lacey Evans.
No.
Because you already had her in a team and didn't need to break them up, did you? I think, unfortunately, the reason she's been hoyed into the Survivor Series match, not only because of Mandy Rose's unfortunate injury, and of course, get well soon to her, but also because they're going to do some spot with Billie Kay, aren't they? They're going to get Billie Kay as one of the final two people, presumably alongside Bayley, to qualify for that Women's Survivor Series 5-on-5 team. And they're going to go, hey, remember the Iconics? And then I'm gonna cry on a live stream again. But yeah, I think she could be a world title challenger down the line. Just I don't really want to, even I don't really want a hot shot into that picture. Final question today comes from Aditya Savant, who says, by setting up McIntyre versus Reigns, has WWE put themselves in a don't know how to book territory, where they would try and protect both of them and screw up the finish? I sense either a Money in the Bank cash-in or a no contest. This is what we were talking about earlier, Andy, before we started recording, about how these matches are described by some people as, well, no one can afford to lose. Except, yes, they can.
Yeah, it's one of those things, man. It's one of these things that WWE has instilled into people's brains, the idea that somebody can't afford to lose, which is, It's just false. Everyone loses in professional wrestling, man. And if you end up in a situation where nobody can afford to lose, it's like the question asker says, it's their own fault. They've mucked it up. It's not good booking. But this match is very exciting on paper. And one thing I've been calling with for years from WWE is for them to book with balls. Not have crappy finishes, not have distractions, referee bumps, interferences, DQs. Limit those completely. You will end up with a system where wins and losses actually mean something. And you will inspire investment because people will know that when they tune into this match, this Roman versus Drew match, they're going to get a finish. You're going to find out who the better man is because that is what professional wrestling is all about. I have gone on a complete tangent here. I think we'll see a screwy finish, and it's unfortunate because I think the match will rule.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Maybe it's going to be another one of those, Roman's accidentally low-blowed him. But I 100% agree. Drew McIntyre can eat this loss and still be fine.
Yes.
Because if you lose to Roman Reigns, you really don't lose that much, particularly if you have Jey Uso faffing about ringside and then you have the Sheamus interference and, everyone's getting distracted. Bang, spear, etc. But even if you didn't do all that, I think as shenanigan-y as that is, I think you could just have, Roman beat Drew because Roman's the sodding tribal chief. Anyway, let's move on to today's and finally. And I don't know about you, but whenever I close my eyes, all I can think about is Drew McIntyre with his whopping bloody sword out on Monday Night Raw. And if you're wondering, where did he get that sword? Andy Murray, would you care to enlighten us?
Oh man, he got that sword. Of course he got that sword from Vince McMahon.
Yes!
Interview with Ryan Satin for WWE on Fox, revealing that, he just wanted to come out in a kilt, but Vince went, "No, pal, I've got a sword." I'm paraphrasing there, obviously. But, Vince McMahon has a bloody dinosaur skull hanging in his office. Of course he owns a bloody sword. It was gifted to him by Triple H and Stephanie, apparently, from an authentic manufacturer in Scotland. I've never been... I'm Scottish, for God's sake. I've never seen an authentic sword manufacturer in the flesh, but I assume they still exist.
It must be a weird day, Christmas Day in the McMahon household.
Yeah, God.
Well, anyway, let us know your thoughts on that and all today's news stories in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts, myself and the Dadley Boys previewing the Wednesday Night War a little bit later on today. Plus, you can let us know your thoughts and Twitter questions on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. And while you're there, follow both of us. You can follow Andy Murray at...
You can follow me at Andy H. Murray, and the H today is very special. It stands for a happy birthday to one of Adam Wilborn's favourite wrestlers, the Berserker.
Follow me on Twitter at Adam Wilborn. Follow us all at WhatCulture WWE. But for now, my thanks to Andy Murray. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.
Hey, he had a sword as well, mate. Should have got his.